In Montreal, you expressed some shock at Quebec opening up a trade office in Tel Aviv. Raised a few eyebrows because Tel Aviv isn't among the many disputed land in Israel. Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist?
Israel does exist. Israel is a recognized member of the United Nations. Besides this, there is not such a thing in international law like a right of a state to exist. Does Italy has a right to exist? Italy exists. Now, if tomorrow Italy and France want to merge and become Ita-France, fine. This is not up to us. What is enshrined in international law is the right of a people to exist. So the state is there, the state of Israel is there, is protected as a member of the United Nations. Does this justify the erasure of another people? Hell no. Not 75 years ago, not 57 years ago, surely not today. Where is the protection of the Palestinian people from erasure, from annexation, from illegal occupation and apartheid? This is what we need to discuss.
Your past comments on Israel and the war have been garnered some criticism with nations like Germany and France declaring their comments as anti-Semitic. With that in mind, you talk to me, are you able to acknowledge the role that Hamas has in this current conflict?
Of course, I've always done. I mean, there is no question whatsoever about that. Let me be clear. I've said on October 7 and since then that the crimes that have been committed against Israeli civilians had to be investigated and punished. No question about that. I have condemned the crimes against Israeli civilians, the killing, brutalization, and the taking of hostages. And with the same rigor and with the same firm spirit, I have condemned the crimes that Israel has committed against the Palestinian people before, on and after October 7, including what now looks like a genocide. Israel has capitalized on the rage, fury, and the extreme pain of the Israelis, turning them into many soldiers, into willful executioner of an extermination plan. Now, let's go to the states you mentioned who have accused me are the United States and Germany and France, states who are clearly involved and supporting in what Israel is doing. It speaks to their record, not mine. Because frankly, not only I am supported my mandate has been supported and protected by Jewish people, organizations, and scholars since the very beginning, just to clear the record. But this is not, my statements are not against the Jewish people or even the Israelis. My assessment is on the performance of the Israeli government. It could be led by Buddhists, Muslim, Christians, atheists. It wouldn't change. The problem is not the state of Israel. The problem is, or its existence. The problem is the fact that Israel practices apartheid against the Palestinian people, continues to maintain an unlawful occupation that is the vehicle to take the land, to expropriate the resources, and to erase the Palestinians. And in order to enforce that plan, it's now also committing a genocide. Genocide is a means to an end. Israel has seized the opportunity to continue what it has been doing since even before its existence, taking the land of historical Palestine without the Palestinians. And it's not even me. Listen to what they say. They're ministers, they're parliamentarians, they're settlers. And by the way, there are Canadian individuals involved in this, in the settlements and probably also fighting in Israel. So this is upon you to know and correct. Yes.
Can I ask about the two-state solution? The Foreign Affairs Committee here is studying what they call the quickest path to recognize a Palestinian state by the government of Canada. Do you think that is a useful exercise? Could it lead to peace if Canada does so?
I beg your pardon, but I'm not comfortable with language like useful exercise where there is an imagining government officials or parliamentarians entertaining themselves in useful exercise when there is a genocide ongoing. The priority is to stop the genocide. If the government here, the parliamentarians want to call it ceasefire, call it pear and apple, call it the way you want, but this is the priority. The rest is secondary, which doesn't mean that the recognition of the state of Palestine is not important. My question is, if this country has entertained the discussions on the two-state solution, how come it has not recognized the state of Palestine yet? What is to be debated? So again, recognition of the state of Palestine shouldn't take time, should be automatic, should be an act of coherence. Otherwise, if you don't recognize it, it means that you shouldn't be talking about that at all. Why are you even a voice in the debate? It's about coherence. I know that what I'm saying is blunt, but we need to be blunt because the impunity that has been granted to Israel for decades has led to this, which is a disaster both for the Palestinians and the Israelis. And again, diplomatic talks has been turned into a place to justify the unimaginable, the illegal. So yes, the state of Palestine should be recognized. Let's move on. But the point, the question is not that. The question is self-determination. Even if you recognize the state of Palestine and it's merely a perfunctory act, what do you do to realize the right of self-determination of the Palestinians? Is Canada spending any of its political capital to make sure that the genocide ends as soon as possible, the ceasefire, whatever? But then there is already a deadline set for the end of the occupation. The ICJ has passed an advisory opinion which declares the occupation unlawful and to be dismantled unconditionally and totally as rapidly as possible. And that as rapid as possible has been defined by the General Assembly. It must happen by September next year. What is Canada doing to ensure that the occupation is dismantled? And then, more than this, there is apartheid. I know that in this country you feel uncomfortable with the word apartheid, but you have to tell me why. Because I, together with Israeli human rights organizations, Palestinian human rights organizations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Harvard University, and thousands of Israelis talk about apartheid and give you the evidence of it. And here, like in other parts in North America, I hear, we cannot say that word. It's your problem. Again, international law is so clear that doesn't allow you to find excuses. So, however, end of the genocide, end of the occupation, end of the apartheid. This is what it means applying international law and helping build peace for Palestinians and Israelis and anyone who calls that land home.
Do you think, you alluded to this in French, I just want to ask again in English, but Canada promotes itself, this government especially, as a government that supports an international rules-based order, but you can look no further to the South Africa case at the ICJ where the Prime Minister said they respect the court but not the ruling. Canada's inaction or lack of inaction, what do you think that says to our reputation that we hold dear here, that we are a country that respects the United Nations, respects international law? How does this event, what's happening in Israel and Palestine, speak to our beliefs?
I can tell you I think I made it clear in French and English what I think. I think that this is not coherent. There is a lot. Let's be very honest. You cannot say that you are in favor, you recognize the primacy of international law and then violate international law in the meantime. You cannot say that you recognize the primacy of the International Court of Justice and then you depart from the application of the principles that have been dictated by that court. There is incoherence, and that incoherence has a name, is lack of compliance. Now, how does this affect Canada's reputation? Look, I think that the world is much more articulated in its capacity of seeing and understanding also the nuances. First of all, something that, I live in an Arab country and I travel a lot across Arab countries. And there is so much admiration for the young people and the universities who have mobilized in this country in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And this includes, in this country, like in the United States, a substantive Jewish component. This is so important, so fundamental, because in a way, it's building a bridge that has been broken many decades ago between the Jewish people and the Arab people. This is immense. And so people differentiate the political level from the people in general. I also think that the media in this country as well, like not different from the rest of the West, have not been very diligent or led by ethical principles in reporting what was happening in Palestine before October 7, on October 7, and after. So probably there is large part of the Canadian people who don't even know what kind of inferno Gaza has been turned into. Women unable to find the basics, from running water, of course everyone, but as a woman, I mean, I would like people to empathize, to realize what it means having an entire family exterminated, not having hospitals anymore, all the universities destroyed, the 300 schools destroyed, all the UN buildings standing, 70% have been severely damaged and cannot be used. Gaza has been turned into rubble. Is it a war? No, it's not a war. Israel has predicated this genocide on the killing of terrorists, when the entire civilian population in Gaza has been qualified as terrorists, including the elderly, including the children, 17,000 children. That if I told you bunnies, there would be better reaction. But because they are Arab, we don't empathize. This speaks to our racists. And I say that as a European, I see that in us. And we need to, let's take this opportunity to do better, to recognize what doesn't work in our societies. And may this be the last genocide in history. This is where we are today. And Canada is still seen as part of the old settler colonial bloc. I'm sorry.